Hey everyone, welcome back to another edition of my videos, and today I've got another analysis video looking at a recent game that I played against my opponent, which featured a very interesting Scandinavian variation. Before I start this video though, make sure you do leave a like at the end of this video if you do enjoy this content, and also if you haven't already, make sure you subscribe and also hit the notification bell, as this will tell you anytime any of my new content does come out. Right, let's go into the actual video itself. So before this game, I did a lot of prep on my opponent. He was actually higher rated than me. He was around sort of 2000 in real life. Well, I say real life, over the board, but online his rating's not super high for classical, but his blitz rating's about 2150, so quite high. So I need to do a little bit of prep to make sure I didn't get blown off the board. And I'd seen in that a lot of his online games he played the Scandinavian exclusively against e4. So I thought, well, I've got to play e4 because, in my view, not to sort of diss the Scandinavian, because I know there's a lot of people who like it. I myself used to play a Scandinavian a lot, but I will say white, in my view, does get probably a slight edge against it, and he can get quite a pleasant game, particularly if he preps for the line. The Scandinavian, I would argue, is quite more kind of like a shock weapon against your opponent. It's something that you wheel out to go, oh, I haven't seen this. But if you prepare for it, then it's not so much of a shock. So I thought that maybe I can use that to my advantage and prepare a pretty solid variation against it. Right, so let's have a look at the game. So I started e4. d5 was played, e takes d5. It's funny actually, the computer already gives it an inaccurate move, but that's besides the point. I can just see loads of Scandinavian players out there creasing at that thought that is an inaccuracy. But anyway, e takes d5, queen takes d5, and then we have knight to c3. So there are three variations that can occur from this. So you either get the main line, which goes queen to a5. You also get queen to d8. And the idea is, the queen, although it looks like I'm losing a tempo by getting my my knight here to attack the queen, black argues, well, your knight's not best placed on c3, so you're going to have to waste maybe a tempo as well, trying to move this knight out the way so you could get your c-pawn forward. By coming to a5, in some ways this helps influence the centre along here, but also when we come to a5, we're going to be looking to play a move like c6, and then maybe at some point later retreat the queen back to c7. d8 has a much more straightforward idea. It just says, okay, I've lost a tempo, but you're going to lose the tempo anyway. My queen will just influence the centre from d8. I myself used to play years ago when I first started playing the Scandinavian e5, a very interesting move known as the Patzer variation. You might think it looks ridiculous, but it's got similar ideas. I'm just going to put my c-pawn up and then retreat it straight back to c7. It actually doesn't lose any extra tempo compared to the a5 lines or anything like that. Right, so let's have a look. What happened in the game? So I played d4 after d6, which is a very unusual move in the Scandinavian. So he didn't play any of the mainline stuff. This is still actually a mainline option, like the third most popular choice. I've always known this variation as the Bronstein variation. On the database I've got with Lichess, though, it gives the name Gubinski Melt's Defense. I've never heard of that. Now, similar idea with d6, it is helping influence the centre in some way. At some point, maybe c7 we played, then they can retreat the queen back. The problem with the queen coming here, though, is I could probably get a few tempo gaining moves against it with it being so near the centre. There's also ideas later on, if let's say my knight came to b5, starting to hit the queen along there. So in the actual game, so I played d4 here, took over the centre, why not, knight to f6, and then knight to f3. And this is where it got quite interesting because, looking at his games online, I noticed he played not a great move against this particular variation. The main line, there's three main lines, there's three ways to play, a6, c6, and also g6 as well. I think that just has the idea of getting the bishop out and then castling this side. But a6 and c6 are the most popular move. The most popular is a6, and you might be thinking to yourself, well, what is the whole point of this move? Well, the idea is simply this. basically we're preparing b5, and also we're stopping the knight from using this lovely b5 square where it could potentially attack the queen here and gain a bit of a tempo, and also potentially also at some point later attack this c7 pawn if, let's say, a bishop was here, for example. So it's a very annoying threat for black in this particular variation. So quite often you'll see this a6 move, but it's got another idea. If, let's say, the bishop came to c4, which looks like the most natural square for a bishop to go to and influencing the center and hitting now this f7 pawn, b5 can come with a very useful tempo, and the problem now for white is he's got to move this bishop away, but also potentially b4 is also coming at some point in the future, which will dislodge his knight from controlling the center. Now, with that said, the knight probably wants to move anyway to help push forward the c pawn, but with a pawn on b4 it's going to be pretty much impossible for this pawn to do anything or develop anywhere to help the center. So quite a tricky variation from black. It's interesting that Hikaru Nakamura played this particular variation on the white side and actually lost a game. This was back in 2004 though, so 16 years ago. So I imagine, I don't know how old Hikaru would have been then, maybe sort of 17, 18 or something. I'm not too sure how old he is, but there we go. So very, very interesting. So going back, c6, similar idea, stopping the knight from maybe coming to b5, and also very thematic in most Scandinavians because it allows the queen to potentially retreat back to the c7 cubby hole, so to speak, a little bolt hole. Okay, but then bishop g4 though. Now this, in my view, is probably a slight inaccuracy, and the reason why is I'll show you, what I played and what I found sort of with the engine in the database is after h3, this is the problem for black. He's going to have to retreat back to h5. If he captures, which you would think is absolutely fine because, oh, look, this pawn is dropping. After queen takes, this is the problem. The queen has no time to take on d4. His b7 pawn's under attack. So he's got to react to this. So essentially, white has gained the bishop pair for virtually nothing. So that's pretty good. So that's why the bishop kind of has to retreat back to h5 now. After h5, g4 comes in, hitting the bishop back again, and now knight to e5. I'm already enjoying my position. At any time I can take off the bishop pair, I can butcher his pawn structure as well, and I'd look to develop safely and comfortably. Again, it's interestingly, he actually now had one game from this position that continued from here with knight to c6, and in this particular variation, white gets a very good edge after bishop to b5. It is very difficult for him now to not have a ruined pawn structure. If, let's say, in one game that he played knight to d7, I can now start chopping off, well, actually in the actual game there was f4 was played first, but a much better line is chopping off this knight, and after queen takes here you've got this move. Very powerful, already winning a minor piece here. If, let's say, he tries something like this, well, we can we take this straight away? I think we can, can't we? What's wrong with just capturing? Takes, swap, swap. Well, I guess we win this pawn as well. So that's pretty good to play for. So we're definitely up a pawn in this variation. Although, is there anything slightly better? Let's have a look. It's very interesting. Oh, bishop pair is also pretty good. b5. Aha, okay, that's an interesting variation. After a takes here, right, so that's how you win the knight. So you win it this way, and you go up a couple pawns, and you're doing pretty well. So I missed that in the tactical variation stuff. So that's pretty nasty. Another move that has actually been seen in a master level game was actually castles long here. Black just decided, do you know what, I've got a miserable position, I'm just going to play with it. And afterwards there was an exchange here. Black has got these doubled isolated pawns, a very weak king side position, an isolated pawn over here, and at any point he can always bank in on this double pair, this bishop pair, and create some more pawn weaknesses for Black to contend with. So we can safely say White has got a very good edge here. So going back, c6 was played instead, and here I put my bishop to f7. I'm already threatening some ideas of capturing this, although knight to d5 is a very key move for defending this position. And you see this in actually the main line of this particular variation. Now my opponent could have actually not panicked and played knight to d5, which would have been very strong, but here he just bails out. He just goes, you know what, I'm not going to get involved in any of this tactical stuff. And in actual fact, I had a very good advantage here if I had played the move h4 and just started going after this bishop. There's some very, very nice lines that I can go for in trapping this bishop. In fact, on the engine, it's just saying I'm winning a clear piece. Actually, Black is better off giving up a piece than trying to hold on to this bishop for dear life. So, in any case, going back, bishop to g2, which is what I played, I decided to get my bishop along this long diagonal, which I thought was pretty good. This knight came to b to d7. I then took off the bishop pair and put my queen to e2. I'm now threatening to castle long. e6 was played. And this is where we've got a very crucial position here. I'm going to give you two choices. You can either castle long, and you can pause the video if you want to do this. So either castle long, or you can play the move d5. Which do you think I played? So pause the video, see if you can solve it, and I'll talk about the two variations. Okay, so the correct move was castles long. And it might surprise you because this was the move I didn't play. And I was worried about this move. The problem with it was I was worried about bishop to b4. Because I wanted to break open with d5. This is a classic sort of thematic break in the Scandinavian, as you know, I'm taking advantage of this pin here, and I can really start breaking down this very solid pawn structure. The problem is, and why I didn't want to play it was I was worried about this capture here. So if he captured this, if I play d5 now, captures I take here, I was thinking this isn't a very nice position. The problem was I missed this particular move. D takes on e6. I'm now threatening just to come crashing in on Black's king side. If, let's say, you know, Black just goes full desperado, he just says, okay, do you know what, I'm giving up my bishop, I'm going to win a pawn here. After I take back, he plays check here, there's all nothing, there's nothing to worry about. He has to do something here, he has to capture this. If he does nothing, he's going to lose this knight, and if he moves the knight out of the way, I think this is quite sufficient. E takes, comes with check. I've got my pieces flooding down this very exposed king. So a very, very nice position. So it's upsetting that I missed this move, and I spent about 7 minutes on it. Why I didn't play it in the end, because this would have been the critical position to do this, and I think it comes down to a couple things really. Why I chose d5 instead of this. I think, well, why also I think castles long is just better than d5. When I castle long, I'm getting my final piece into the attack. Number one. I'm getting my number two. I'm getting my king into a very safe position, and this I think is the most important thing, because the problem with d5 is now after c takes d5, I can't capture this pawn. If I capture with my knight, let's say, he captures back with this knight. He can't take with this pawn, and I capture back. It looks pretty good. I'm starting to rip apart Black's structure. But this is the issue, and this is what I realised as soon as I played d5. I went, oh god, this is a tactic he can play. Notice my king and my bishop start to fall. If he tries to defend with this queen, which looks like it holds everything, queen takes with check. He then takes there. So that's how he would fight in this particular variation. Another thing, if he tries bishop here instead. Well, it just takes here, so that's absolutely fine as well. So yeah, it was a real shame, because I think I could have got a very, very good position. D5, okay, it's a bad move, but it's still not terrible. I mean, black's position wasn't very good here. So, you know, he's still 2 moves away from actually getting fully developed and probably equalizing. So, you know, D5 is not the biggest mistake. And I think I should have maybe realized this and maybe gone, okay, you know what, don't panic. So I did castle long here. Bishop came to e7. As I say, I was getting quite frustrated. I was thinking, oh no, he's going to get his king castled. He's going to do absolutely fine. And here I missed then this potential attack now. I could have actually captured with the bishop here. It's very interesting. After e takes, knight takes, rook takes. If he does castle long, I've got this move. And it's very strong, because you'll notice that this knight, it can't be defended. He can't move out of the way because he just loses queen. It's a very, very nice position for me to get into. So not pleasant at all for black. So going back then, again, I think it was pure frustration more than anything. I just played about a poor plan, shall we say. I put my knight to b5. I was thinking, okay, well, I'll try and fork something and then maybe create some tactics along here. But it doesn't work. He then just castles long. I put my knight to c7. It hits the rook, but he just moves his rook. And in actual fact, I've got his rook more active, and it's now creating some problems for my own king, potentially, in the future. I then decided to capture. It just doesn't work. I'm afraid to say black is in no danger over here. He actually finds a really, really good way to just get all the pieces off. He first captures here on d5, rook captures, and then after he moves his knight here, there's a few exchanges, and basically we're left with this position. Black is, well, I have to take care. Black is just up a pawn, but he's got a rook and knights against my rook. And the rook and knight is a very good combination. It's a very difficult piece coordination to fight against when you're the defending side, as these two pieces do work really well together. This knight can probe at weaknesses all over my pawn structure. Black does have these double pawns, but they are well defended by the king. You know, the king can just sit and guard these for a long time and just use these two guys to outmaneuver my own rook. So it was a real shame. You know, my position just deteriorated, but I think it's very, I would say it's instructive that, you know, I spent 7 minutes deciding on this d5 move to know that it's not a good move. But then straight afterwards, you know, as soon as I got to this position, which is totally losing here, I only spent maybe 2-3 minutes. So I spent 5 moves on basically, you know, 2 minutes. But I spent one move which was, okay, not the worst move in the world, but it could have been worse. I spent 7 minutes on that. So I think what I should have done is really just gone, okay, like calm yourself down a little bit. Just try and work out what is a nice position, what isn't a good position. And I could have potentially got a very, very good attack going, and probably a very good edge. So, yeah, it's you know, it's a real shame, because I think, as I say, you know, you see, I've got a very good, promising position. I just end up losing it all in the moment, in basically about 8 moves. So in any case, this was the end of this particular game. There wasn't a whole lot. The end game's not particularly interesting. He manages to win 1 pawn. I tried to create some counterplay along here, but it doesn't really lead to anything. He ends up winning a 2nd pawn, and after this I just resigned. There's no point fighting on to try and just playing a very bad losing endgame here. So in any case, that's it for this video. I hope you enjoyed it. I hope you found, I think, some of my loss instructive in some way. But I think it all comes down to, I think the key learnings from this lesson is before you start any attack, get everything developed and get your king safe. I think that's very important. It stops any nasty sudden tactics from coming anywhere. And and I think before you're making these rash decisions, like a big, very key pawn break, you should use as much time as you need. Basically, 7 minutes, okay, that's a bit of time, but in actual fact, I probably could have used 20 minutes because let's face it, it was a key moment in the game that would have made or not made my game, if that makes sense. Anyway, I hope you enjoyed this. I hope you found it as instructive as I did. Take care. Bye.